Hello there, Ben Bowers, the Spirit Specialist, and I'm here today to talk to you about the Sheffield Distillery Assay Elderflower and Apricot Gin, a brand new release from this very small distillery. There are only 175 bottles of this in existence. Very, very small batch, very small distillery. This was a part of a seasonal run that they're going to be doing through the year, and this is their spring release. This is the first one. So if you do like this, probably worth getting a couple of bottles because there's not many of them around. But before I tell you what it tastes like, spoiler alert, it tastes very good. Let me give you a bit of information about the distillery itself.
The Sheffield Distillery is based at the commercial pub in Chapeltown, just off Junction 35A of the M1 motorway. The pub itself has an incredible selection of whiskies and regularly hosts tasting events for their customers, but over the years discussions about making their own spirit solidified into converting a shipping container in the car park and installing a small still in 2017. Bar manager Paul Harrison and his small team spent a good deal of time up front researching distilling processes, ensuring they had a plan in place rather than going head on into production and learning on the go. Reading up on various technical aspects, such as the influences of where to take the cut, gave them a base to create high-quality vodkas and gins while continuing to make moves into eventually making whiskey. In May 2020, a freak accident caused ethanol to spray out of the still and ignite. As a result, Paul suffered third-degree burns and spent 2 weeks in an induced coma to recover. Amazingly, Paul is back up and running, although it will take up to 2 years for him to get back to full fitness, and following an adaptation to the still, whereby it heats up using a water bath, he is back to producing spirit. The brand name Assay refers to 4 offices around the UK who are responsible for hallmarking precious metals. In other words, checking the quality and integrity of the metal and producing those little stamp marks you'll see on most of your jewellery. Sheffield is famous around the world for the quality of steel produced there, so the team contacted the Sheffield Assay office to request permission to use their word to indicate the quality of their spirit. In reference to this, you'll see hallmarks on the alcohol strength on the bottle. Assay Elderflower and Apricot Gin is bottled at 45% ABV. It's a brand new limited edition seasonal release from the Sheffield Distillery with only 175 bottles produced in total. 5 kilograms each of elderflower and apricots are added to the still before distillation, and because the water bath takes 12 hours to heat up to a distillation temperature, it technically macerates for a little while before vapours start to rise. Another 5 kilograms of each is then steeped in the resulting gin for 7 days afterwards. Dried apricots are used in both instances as they offer far more concentrated flavour than the fresh fruit would.
Right then, so what does the gin taste like? So I have a miniature from them because Paul, when he turned up with the bottles, they had literally only just bottled it. So he's got a little handwritten label on a miniature for me, which is very nice. I have tried a little bit already. I thought there was actually a fly on the bottle, but it turns out it's the writing on the other side of the label. Bit of a panic. I was like, I wasn't expecting that in there. Nice bit of protein in your gins, always good. Anyway, so as I said earlier, 175 bottles. The plan is for them to do some seasonal editions, but just on a very, very small scale. They're not a massive distillery anyway, as you've already seen from the brief overview I've given you. So this is literally a single batch. 175 bottles, that's it, and then they shall move on to the next one, which he's had told me, and I'm not going to tell you because 1, it's a secret, and 2, I've actually forgotten. But the Elderflower and Apricot Gin. Now, I've tried this and I was really impressed with it. Even more so because I'm not a massive fan of elderflower generally. Elderflower gins, I find them a bit floral and a bit too floral for my liking. There's a weird kind of florally, fragranty sweetness to elderflower that tends to be in gin, particularly gin liqueurs, just too overbearing. I'm not a big fan of like elderflower tonics, that sort of thing. So when Paul said, oh, we're going to be doing this elderflower and apricot, do you want some in? I was like, well, I'll try it, but it's going to be difficult for me to sell it if I'm not particularly excited about it. And apricots, to be honest, I can give or take. They're okay, but they don't exactly float my boat. So this was a flavour combination where it was like, I'm not too sure about this. But I tried it, and I've got it on the shelf, available to sell, because I think it's good enough. Let me tell you why. So, on the nose, apricot, really full on, and the elderflower is quite subdued. It's quite low in the background, which for me is good, because as somebody that's not that keen on elderflower, you don't really want it too full on in your face. Now, I am filming this immediately after doing the 3 Wrens Bloody Apricot, which was very orangey, blood orange, and the apricot was quite subdued. This is very much, particularly on the nose, the other way round. It really is a rich, full apricotiness. It smells like a bag of dried apricots. Like you've just literally opened a bag and shoved your nose in like a horse, like a nose bag, and just taken a big sniff. It really is apricot, but there's like an oiliness to it as well. Now, the Sheffield Distillery guys, they take their cut of spirit quite early on, and it means that you get like a oilier, creamier, thicker spirit because you're taking it early on in the run. And that really is helping with this richness on the nose. It really is. I love it. I really, really love it. Considering I'm not that keen on elderflower and apricots, I can give or take, this nose I think is absolutely fantastic. There's a bit of a citrusy element to it. There's a bit of kind of like orange and lemon and lime zest in there. But that's working really well with that overriding apricot cream almost. It really is cracking on the nose. Now, bottled at 45% as well, and I think that's helping. I think that extra little kick of alcohol is lifting those flavours up even more. Or flavours, nosing aromas. Aromas, not noses. That's what I've got in my face. It's lifting those aromas up, definitely. Okay, on the palate. That creaminess really comes through. You get more elderflower now, and almost a hint of black pepper. On that mouth feel there, around the sides of my mouth, it was almost like a tiny bit of black pepper or even chili flakes or something like that. And I think it's that purity of the elderflower. I think it's the fact that they're using proper ingredients, they're macerating it in the spirit. The apricot element on the nose is dialed down a little bit, and you get more of the elderflower coming through. But again, it's not overly powerful, it's not overly fragrant, which is where the danger would be. And to be honest, if it was getting too elderflowery, even though that's not a word, that's probably where I'd be going like, I'm not too keen on this. But he's got the balance pretty much bang on. But it's that oiliness, it's that mouthfeel that is really, really helping matters. And again, that slight spiciness is coming through. It's really unusual. It's working really well, and it's giving it a different dimension. I can imagine some people might try this and go, I like elderflower, I like apricot. They try it and they get this peppery element, and it may be a little bit disconcerting. Not necessarily off-putting, not enough for people to go, oh, I never want to touch that stuff again. But it's quite unexpected, but it really makes things interesting. And actually, if it didn't have that, the danger is it would be a little bit one note. It would be just like, well, you get apricot, you get elderflower. It's okay, but there's this weird spiciness to it in the background, kind of on either side. That's the best way I can describe it, is on the sides of my mouth, is just making things interesting, quirky. So I'm not sure I would drink this neat necessarily. I think it probably would work really well in a mixer. I really want to try this in cocktails. I'm going to compare it again, and Paul is probably watching this going, please don't compare it to a competitor. But I've tried two apricot-y type gins side by side. And again, this is more orangey than apricot. The apricot is much more subdued. I think this would work as a citrus gin cocktail, whereas the assay, I'm intrigued to see how this works in with, say, lemon juice, maybe a little bit of lime, more of a long drink because it's got more weight behind it. So I think the three Wrens will work in like shorter cocktails, you know, martini glasses, that sort of thing. Whereas I think the elderflower and apricot from Assay, it's beefier, it's got more to it, it's got more weight behind it, the mouthfeel particularly. And I think as a longer drink, that will certainly work. So I really want to play around with the elements of both of these. Very spring like this, it really is. Whereas the bloody apricot was more, I would argue, autumnal, the elderflower element in this, that slightly fragrant element and that weight, I think will actually work really well in spring and summer, particularly in summer. Sun's out, you're in your back garden, the windows are open, you're nice and hot, and I think this has enough behind it in a long drink where, you know, a good amount of tonic or lemonade would probably work quite well. And I think, you know, something like Sicilian lemonade or something like that, I think would work really well with this. I think it's going to be a beautiful long drink because you're really going to get that gin coming through and that silkiness of the liquid as well. It's great stuff. They are, you know, Paul and the people that he's working with have done a fantastic job in producing some very, very good just base spirit to work with before they've even started putting the flavours in. And then the flavours that they're doing are good quality ingredients, proper ingredients, no artificial flavouring, and they're just making really, really good gins and vodkas. So And it just keeps changing, it keeps evolving. Loads of stuff going on, really good finish. The finish does last for a good few minutes. Even with me rabbiting away, I can still keep tasting it. So great quality stuff. I highly recommend a bottle, particularly as the weather is starting to improve. It is available through our website, www.spiritspecialist.com. We do offer nationwide UK delivery, and you're also more than welcome to pop into the shop as long as it's between 9:30 and 5 o'clock on a Tuesday to a Saturday, because that's when we're open, but we are open and trading through this pandemic. So hopefully I will see you. I do have a little bit of a miniature, and hopefully Paul can give me a little bit more to share with some of you lovely folk. So do pop in and come say hello. That is me done. I recommend it. Buy a bottle. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers.